Okay, cool. Oh, wait, I don't have a video on. Okay, there you go. So, quick, like, does anyone remember like the difference between state and prop? Does anyone want to take a guess? I know it's been like 2 weeks. Yeah, go back.
Yeah, so props are passed in, while state, typically you just keep it internal.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the difference between a constructor versus like a state variable, right? Like a variable inside. So yeah, that's very nice. If anyone has any questions about that, like feel free to ask. So I guess like if you think about like a to-do list, right? Does anyone have any guesses as to how to componentize that into like separate pieces? So what are the like few things that a to-do list has? Go ahead, just say it.
You can make each individual like item a component.
What else is there? So there's items, and then
we can make a button.
Yeah, so you have a button for submission, and then also like a text area, right? That you type, and then you press the submit button to add an item to the list. So that's like 3 parts, right? So maybe we can start with, what did you guys want to start with? An item or a button and text area? Maybe we can do like the list of items first. So maybe we can have like a state variable for like a list of items. Does anyone remember how to make a state variable?
The use state function.
Yes. Would you like to do it, Jacob? And then while he does that,
Yeah, sure. Wait, what are we making a state for again?
can you make a state variable for a list?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so you can do that there. And then the other thing we wanted was a text area, right? Actually, I haven't told you guys about this, but how you would make a text area is you do input and then type is equal to text. And then that is how you do a text area, right? But okay, let's just first of all do the list. So Jacob just made us a very nice use state. And we're making it a use state with a string variable. Let's just have a random thing inside right now. Okay. And then does anyone know how to use this list and map out every single item and list it in a row? So does anyone, like maybe Nick, do you remember how to have a like list out, like map out every single item in the list?
There's a map function, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how to write it though.
Yeah, totally good. So what a map function is you can do like, so first of all, how do you have JavaScript inside of this JSX? Maybe Shruti, if you remember.
Sorry, I don't.
Yeah, of course. Does anyone know how to have JavaScript inside of JSX? The hint is that you can do curly brackets, right? And then now you can put anything JavaScript inside of here. So what you can do is list.map, as Nicholas said. And then if you look here, it says there's a value, right? So you do value, so every single item in the list, and then you can do something with the item. So what you can do is you can maybe you can return a div. If it's confusing, like no worries. I will explain this a little better in a little bit. So basically now every single item in the list returns, every single item is a div item, right? So now if we run this, we can run this. Now we're gonna start. Does anyone have any questions so far about mapping out every single item in the list? No? Okay, sounds good. So now we have an item in the list, which is random item. And then if we add new things in here, so if we have like Nick or Harsh, now every single like item will just come out. So this is pretty cool because now you can like personalize this item, right? So it's like item says hi, and now you don't have to duplicate this code. So yeah, yeah, go for it.
Where's the item coming from? It says list up there.
Yeah. So this list, right? You're saying for every single item in the list, and on each element of the array, return an array that contains the result. So basically, every single item in this list, this is happening and being returned.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, cool. So that's how maps work. So there's a few other functions that are nice. So you know how we can do list.map, right? If you're interested, I'm not going to talk about too much, but there's also other functions such as for each, and then do something for each, and just other functions like that. But we're not going to talk about it because we don't need to talk about it. But does the list mapping make sense? Okay, sounds good. So the next thing we need to do, right, is be able to have like maybe like a button so that on submit, like the text in here, like adds to the list, right? So does anyone know how to make a button? Henry,
I'm assuming you'd have to.
Go ahead.
Sorry, my bad. But I'm pretty sure you'd have a button HTML element,
Yeah.
and then
You wanna
inside
do
you
that?
have an on click,
Huh?
and then on click, you know, you'd on the click you'd have an anonymous function that adds an item using set list to the list.
Yes, exactly. So what do we set it to?
We set it to the current list itself, and then the additional item.
Yes. But oh my gosh, it's so annoying. Yes, but how do we get in order to get the other item, maybe we need another state function, right? State value. So what we need to do is we can copy and paste this. And then we have like cur item. Or let's just call it item. And then I will call this I. And then we can do this set item. And then what value, what data type should this be? Maybe Henry, what data type do you think this should be? A singular item.
We can just make that like a string.
Yeah, exactly. So you just do something like that. Cool. So now maybe we have to do on change for the input. Something happens, right? So on change for the input. I don't know if anyone has used input type. So I'm just gonna. Has anyone used the input type? Okay, I'll assume not. Sorry, I'm not used to this computer. I usually use like a MacBook, so that's why. So on change, what you do is you have an event where during the event, what happens is that we set the item equal to the e.events targets value. Yeah. So this is what happens, right? Oh my gosh. So on change, we set the item to that. And then now, does someone want to help me make it so that when you click the button, the list will be set to the list and the item after? Does anyone remember how to append an item to a list? Harsh, do you want to take a guess? Do you remember how to like open up a list?
I'm not sure. Wait,
Yeah, no worries. So in order to open up a list, right, you do ... and then list. So that's called a spread operator. And then afterwards, if you add something to it, like hi, then now this will become a list of everything that the list was. So all of this stuff, and then appended with a hi. So that's what a spread operator looks like. So with that in mind, do you want to take a guess as to how to have the list spread out? Have the list spread out and then append the item after.
So we want to like append the item.
Hmm?
So like here you spread the list and then
Yeah, you can
to
just write it down.
append. I think I have to look it up. Not
Oh,
sure.
okay. Wait. So wait, you can just come back. I can explain it again. So in this example, we are spreading out the list and then we're appending hi to it. So basically, dot 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 list just grabs everything in here, pastes it, and then appends the hi after. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So how would you instead append items?
You just replace the list with the item and then
Yeah, exactly. So you just replace this with item, right? That's all you need to do. Yeah. So we do that here, where on click we set the list equal to the list spreaded, and then also the item, right? Maybe one other thing we want to do is that we want to reset the item, right? So that so the user doesn't have to reset it every single time. How do we reset the item? Does anyone want to take a guess? Jacob, do you want to take a guess as to how to reset the item?
Yeah, so there should be a function in JavaScript that clears it. Well, I mean, you'd have to, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in order to clear the item itself, maybe we can just set item equal to an empty string, right? And then now we can do it so that maybe like we have to set the value of the input equal to item. Stupid computer. Like that. So now we can take a look here. Oh, now the button's really tiny. How do we make it bigger?
Add some text in the actual button component.
Yeah. Do you want to help me do that? Thank you. Okay, cool. So now if we add anything, so we'll add it to there. Isn't that kind of cool? Do there have any questions so far? Yeah, go ahead, Mahir.
Oh no, I was just clapping.
Oh, yes. Yay, we did it together. Excellent.
I have a question.
Go for it.
What is so unchanged with the on line 18, you have the unchanged with the E. So what does the E is just like a temp name for, I'm not sure where E came from.
Yeah. So input types and like a lot of like button on clicks and like these are just things that are expected. So these are things that are really similar to HTML, CSS. So E is an event. So you can actually like you can go online and look up what exact commands there are. Or you can just like E dot, because it's a TypeScript. So you can actually just like look through what is available. But generally you just have to look this kind of stuff up. And like, it's like an API, right? So it's a programming interface that like you have to just use.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Cool. I will continue then, but like definitely like I feel like this is probably really confusing. And also like easier to follow than to do yourself. So I would recommend just like practicing on your own after. So I'll just continue. But basically, this div stuff, right? We could do more with it. Like maybe we can have like a button like next to it, where like after you click the button, like it'll like strike through or something. So that it's like actually like a to-do list, right? So how do we do this? Does anyone have any guesses?
So for each component you add into the list, you like you actually add like another like a button.
Yeah.
Or just make the whole thing like touchable.
Yeah, exactly. You can make the like have a button next to it, right?
Yeah.
Cool. You can do that, right? But since like that is something we should do. But another thing about this is that imagine if you have like a huge like page, right? Imagine if you're making YouTube, you probably don't want a singular page for the entire code. So generally we try to componentize in terms of things that make sense. So for instance, like maybe one single item can be its own component, right? So we can actually like take this entire item out and make a component. Does anyone remember how to make a component? Who has I not called on? Chen, do you know how to make a component?
Is it just like creating a function?
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to help me do that? Maybe we can call it item or something.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically a component is just a function that returns like JSX. So we can just write a component that is called item and just have this JSX inside instead. So I'm just gonna help Chen by throwing this code inside. So now you have made a function like your own like component. Generally, this is capitalized when you make a component. It's not a huge deal. And then also, it doesn't know what I is, right? It doesn't know what the item is. So maybe we can pass in some stuff. What is the thing? Does anyone remember what the things passed in is called? Maybe like Sruthi?
Are they parameters?
Yeah, they're parameters, and they're also called props specifically inside of React. So you can just do props. And then this is TypeScript, right? So because it's TypeScript, we can type the props. So maybe we can call it item props. And then what do we expect? Maybe we expect just like a to-do, like that is a string, right? Like things you need to do. And how you type props, does anyone remember how to type props into item props?
Put the curly braces around it.
Curly braces around which? This?
Yeah.
Okay. When you curly brace around this, what it does is that it destructures it. So it takes out props from the object. So if you have an item that has props and then like something else, then props will directly equal to this in the future. So I know it's a little confusing, but if you guys are making code, I will like help you out with like specific details. But specifically how you type this is actually you have to do props, colon, and then item props. So then now you're typing props into item props. Cool. So now we want to have the to-do here, right? So should we maybe put to-do here instead? Oh no, it doesn't know what to-do is. Please help. Can someone help me? Harsh, would you like? Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Don't jump into item props.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So that's how you specify it's the props to do. Cool. So that's like one of the steps, right? Another thing we want to do is we click the button, right? Oh no, what is wrong? Okay. Oh yeah, down here. So what do we want to return instead? I don't think I taught you guys this, so I'll just tell you. What you need to do is you need to have an item props, right? And we need to pass in the item itself. So we can do maybe, it's called to do, right? So we do to do is equal to I. So now it should compile. And now we can click this button, right? But the button isn't doing anything. What should we do about the button? Does anyone know what we should do with the button?
We need to add an on click.
You need to add on click, right? But what should happen on click?
I should like append the whatever item it is from the list.
So right now, maybe we want to on click, cross it out, right? So maybe we need another state. So maybe we can have like a is striked, and then is not, set is striked, right? And what data type should this be? Jacob, what data type should this be?
Boolean.
Yeah. So maybe we can just do false for now, right? And then maybe on click, what we can do is we can set is striked equal to not is striked, right? What's wrong with this? Arush, you want to help me? What's wrong with this? Why is it angry?
Because like you passed in, you didn't pass in a function, you just passed in what the function returns. So you have to put an arrow function there.
Yeah. Do you want to help me fix that then?
All right.
Thank you. Cool. So maybe we need to do something for is striked, right? So we need to maybe instead, wait, I'm going to auto format this after Arush is done. How do you auto format this? There you go. So maybe like the to do can have its own div, just so it's more pretty. And then control F. Okay, so we should make it so that if it's striked, if is striked, this is going to be pseudocode, then we do this div, else we do strike. And then so that's what we want to do, right? Does anyone have any guesses to how to do this in one line? I think Mahir, you just asked me a question about this, so I think you got this.
Has something to do with the, oh, I forgot the name already, but it was like the, yeah, would you use the double question mark one?
Which one do you think? So basically, for everyone else, there's two different things, right? So there's ternary operation. So that question mark something else. So basically, if this is true, then you run this, or like this gets returned. If this is false, then this gets returned. Another thing that people do is that, and then question mark, and then something else. So what happens here is that if this is null or empty, then this one is returned. But if this one is not null, then this one is returned. So what people tend to do is something like hello, or something like that. So which one do you think we should use here?
I think like if I'm understanding it right, like we use the ternary because we're not gonna return the, whether it's like, we're not gonna return false or true, we're gonna return the HTML.
Yeah, exactly. So do you want to maybe try to help me do that?
I'm not too sure on the syntax.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, so first thing is whether it's true or false. And then the next thing is the first value. That is, if is strike, then we do this. And then otherwise we do the second thing. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what strike is, so I'm just gonna italicize it. Cool. So that's what it looks like, right? So does anyone see any issues with this really quick? Imagine that italicizes strike.
Is it because it doesn't know which one it's talking about?
Which one? What do you mean?
Because like, wait, sorry, never mind.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's pretty similar to like not doing the right like thing. In terms of like right now, if it is strike, then we're leaving it as is. While if it's not strike, we're italicizing it. But it should be the opposite way around, right? So how do we fix this? Does anyone have any like thoughts?
You put a not in the front of the
Mm-hmm.
strike.
Yeah. So we can do that. And then now, if we go back to our code, yay! So why is it happening twice? We should debug this, right? What can we do? Why is it happening twice? Please help. Let's see. Am I gonna pick someone or is someone gonna help? Yeah, thank you, Jacob. Yeah, you guys, we can delete that because we had an extra item over there. So now we can say we're done. And if we're not done, cool. One last thing is that generally these components should be in their own files. So I should have another file inside of source, the item called item.tsx. And then I can copy over this entire item over to item.tsx. So cool. I'm going to import some stuff. Quick fix. Cool. But now if I delete this stuff, right? If you look down here, it doesn't know what item is. How to help? Can someone help me? Does anyone know how to do this? I actually don't know if anyone knows how to do this. So if anyone knows, please speak up. Okay, I'm gonna assume no one knows that. But basically there's some exporting stuff, right? So if you look down here, there's export default app. And what happens here is that whenever we import this file, so for instance, inside of index.tsx, if we do import app from ./app, then it will automatically import this entire component over. So if we make it instead, I'll show you in a bit. But so that means that we probably have to export item here. So we have to do export default item. So this is probably the default thing we want to export. And now like TS TypeScript is really nice because now I can just like quick fix and import it, right? But say we wanted to export this item prompt. So in order to export this, like imagine if I just did export, right? Because if I don't do the default, how you would import this somewhere else is you actually have to do a, wow, there's so many hands. You have to do a item prompts. So you have to do comma space and then destructure. Like I think that was what Jack said, or maybe that was Jason. You destructure it and then now it is, you can use item prompts in future use. So yeah, do you guys have any questions? I think that was like the basics of, you guys made a to-do list. So, yay. Yeah, do you guys have any questions about that? No? Okay, well, I will stop recording then.